All right, everyone can see my screen? Awesome possum. Thank you, everyone. And I'm gonna pop open my chat as well. Yeah, so as also Jackie says in the chat, I mirror that sentiment. Thank you so much for being here, recognizing that it is exam period, especially if you are a faculty member. But let's be honest, there's always busy periods at all throughout the year in education. So this is just another hurdle, and we appreciate that you've taken the time out of your day to give us a little bit of your attention. So you are here because we are going to discuss and share our course development onboarding at Algonquin College and modeling our expectations through high quality training. But first, recognizing that it is that busy time of the year, how are you all doing? Here's our little dog chart to the right. And so if you wouldn't mind, if you feel like sharing your dog number in the chat for how you're feeling right now, please feel free to do so. Oh, a 5. I'm hoping nobody is feeling like dog number 8. We got okay, we got some 4s and some 6s. All right, is anybody feeling that 9 dog? I don't know what's going on with that 9 dog, but yeah, see my 3 thumbs up. Awesome. Ooh, a number 2. Somewhere between 1 and 4. Okay, we're fluctuating. I have a lot of these different kinds of animal scales, and I will admit I stole from a colleague because I love how he ends up starting this with his sessions. So always like to inject that little tiny bit of humor. Yeah, and if it's a rainy day, maybe you're a number 1 dog. I appreciate that. Oh, we're going to introduce ourselves. I'm going to learn a little bit more about you and who our audience is today. We are going to overview the course dev process at Algonquin College, discuss some of our previous pain points, highlight some of the successes that we've seen throughout our new training, and also share some of our ambitious next steps. But first and foremost, recognizing that I am at least situated on Algonquin territory in Ottawa, you might be somewhere else, but Ottawa is built on unceded Anishinaabe Algonquin territory. The peoples of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation have lived on this territory for millennia, and their culture and presence have nurtured and continue to nurture this land. As agents of change in education, we encourage you to learn more about the land and our First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people of the area that you are on. There are some links there for you to dive in at another point. There are different starting options, which does remind me, I'm going to pop in the chat now. I wanted to share early just in case people did have to leave. And I have too many windows open. Apologies for this. Had this all up and ready, I promise. There we go. Okay, it should be sending to you. There we go. So, of course, most of the time we're like, hey, can we have that PowerPoint? And can we have that recording? So we're starting by sending you the PowerPoint right away. Who am I? I am Sara Powell. You probably already know me as the co-chair and chair of the CDEG PD sessions and have heard me introduce people for a while now. But what I actually do at Algonquin College is my role as a curriculum consultant, more recently since about December, permanently. But before that, I've been with the Learning and Teaching Services Department as an instructional designer, supporting course development for about 5 years now. So I've been steeped in this particular area for a while. Melissa, you want to go?
Hello, everyone. I'm Melissa Malloy, and I know here it says that I am a curriculum administrator, but I actually just started in this temporary role as curriculum administrator just this past February. So before that, I was working as an instructional designer, and that's kind of my home role as well. So similarly to Sara, I've been working as an instructional designer for, I guess, about 6 years in the learning and teaching services area. And before that, I supported educational technology integration for faculty. So I've had lots of experience just supporting faculty in general.
Thank you. All right, so if you can pull it up on your own screens or pull it up on a phone or other device, please let us know a little bit about what your role is at your institution by going to this Slido. And recognizing that some of you might wear multiple hats at your institution, pick whichever bucket you are kind of coming into this presentation wearing. So if you could go to slido.com and enter number 4523075. All right. Pretty good range of folks, but definitely of at least 50% in either education developing, instructional design, curriculum consultants. Okay. And for our next one, if you didn't get it, that's okay. This just gives us an idea of who we're speaking with. What are some of the challenges or pain points with developing courses at your institution, if this is applicable to your role? Ooh, lack of time. Yeah. I'm guessing those are course learning outcomes with the Ontario Quality Framework. Ah, SME availability, faculty pushback, compensating. No background in course development and feel resistant. People not understanding the process and quality. Wow, there's a lot of answers in here. Embedding EDI respectfully. Understanding the context. Okay, writing good outcomes. Sharing shares and activities. There may be some disconnect with the end product. Yep, mapping timelines. Ooh, degree level standards. Wow, we have a lot of pain points. All in all, is not an easy job always, right? Looking at some of these, the time, subject matter, timeline, subject matter expert comes up a lot. And apologies for my cat, who, if you can hear her, would love to be part of this presentation. Shh, stop it. Okay, wow, thanks everyone. That is really interesting and helpful for us. I see 3 people more typing, so I'm going to make sure to wait for those, and then I'm going to move on. Oh, mapping to evaluation methodology. Jesus. She just jumped on me. Never a dull moment when you work from home. Okay. So some of our pain points at Algonquin College definitely mirrors some of the ones that you've already shared. So while of course I don't want to be like, yay, I'm so glad you have the same pain points, but at least a lot of this is going to be relevant for you as well. So in terms of our role, spending a lot of time correcting learning outcomes. And then as we saw with some of yours as well, that weak alignment between the learning outcomes and assessments, a real heavy reliance on traditional assessments, because of course, what works for them when they went to school must work for the current student bodies, right? I see your private message, Charlene. Thank you. My cat on me. And a lot of, for at least Algonquin, a lot of the onboarding was us talking at our faculty members about all of these processes and trying to orient them to it and having a lot of repetitious questions. And that can be really overwhelming for faculty at any stage, but especially our new hires, our new subject matter experts that might not have actually taught at Algonquin yet. So you see this after with a question mark. because we're going to come back to this slide after we actually talk about what we've done and how this has helped to address some of this. Where have we come from? Well, I see Mel Young in our attendance earlier. So little do you know that you were a big spark for this. So thank you. Attending a conference for CDAG in November of 22, we had a panel discussion at one of them about onboarding new faculty. And although I see Vanessa is part of our team as well, the three of us, we know these pain points. We know we wanted change in our course development processes, but not knowing how and where to go with that. So it was Mel Young speaking about their processes at Algonquin College and how they use sprints for course development that really kind of sparked that it can be done. Other people are doing it. We can do that too. And ended up following up with her, and we had a good conversation of some of their pain points and where they hope to go. And that also spurred more looking into how other colleges support course development. And it really varies across all institutions, as you might imagine. So two that really were big inspirations for us were Cambrian College and Seneca College. More specifically, Seneca has a quality framework for designing and delivering online courses. And we were finding that a lot of the frameworks for quality tended to be specific to online delivery. So we wanted to ensure that the resource, the framework that we developed could apply to any modality. So we also, or at least at the time I did, and then Melissa and Vanessa at another point completed the Quality Matters course on applying the QM rubric. I connected with other folks throughout Algonquin for previous efforts in kind of coming up with an Algonquin specific framework that we won't say the word failed, but it didn't have the reception that we were hoping with faculty. So hoping to learn from that and not make those same mistakes. This led us to last summer coming up with Algonquin College's Framework for Quality Course Design, which you can find on the web, and there are links at the end of this presentation for that. But this was really our foundation. If we wanted to improve course development, we needed to have a source to point to what good quality course development actually means for us and to really explain those expectations. But we wanted it to promote reflection and improvement as opposed to being punitive. Finding a lot of, especially in the QM model, a lot of you get points for X, Y, and Z, and you lose points if you're not doing it in a certain way. So we wanted to explain, say, these 6 fundamentals and how they applied in an Algonquin specific course, and give a little bit of what each fundamental means. But the rest includes reflective questions of if you've included X, Y, and Z in this course. So hopefully that triggers that conversation or drive for additional training if they don't have this in this course. It could be something that they're starting with at the very beginning of their course design, or it could be something that, you know what, my course is a little stale and I'm hoping to improve it. This is a good starting point. So for us, those 6 fundamentals included measurable, for us, course learning requirements or CLRs, a student-centered assessment plan, aligned course content, welcoming and organized learning management system, supportive teacher resources. You wanted, if somebody else were to teach it, what would they need to be able to teach it in a high quality manner, and embedded learner supports. So what additional pieces might be included in the LMS to make that a supportive experience for our students. Our course development process, again, is specific to Algonquin, and we are supporting the development of the full set of course deliverables so that it is plug and play, so that anyone with the same expertise or the same experience can come in and teach the course with the integrity that was intended in its design. We want to orient faculty to the process, the resources, our course development checklist, enroll them in our new training that we'll talk about, and help ongoing ideation and review. We promote good pedagogical and andragogical practices while adhering to those quality measures and college policies. But the really key difference that we need to emphasize is our roles are to support faculty for them to create and develop their course. We're building the capacity of our faculty members So our instructional design roles are different in that we're not taking that information and creating it for them in the LMS. They're still doing all of that, but we're helping them through all of those processes. So after we have the framework, after we were getting feedback from a bunch of different areas, Melissa, myself, and two other colleagues that are no longer with LTS. One is still at Algonquin in a different position. Shanna Passmore, unfortunately, is now with Conestoga. Huge asset to them. I want to say Tessa Foster and Shanna Passmore were huge contributors to the development of this course. In fall 2023, we were able to launch it. It is a fully asynchronous course to orient new course developers to the process before they end up meeting the instructional design team. It also provides an exemplar of asynchronous course design, including well-written learning outcomes for every module and knowledge checks throughout using H5P. I see Emmanuel's question. Not yet. Part of our ambition and where we want to go in one of our last slides, we've had some pushback from our learning, like our Brightspace team on the deployment of that. But we want this. We want this very much. And we know some programs actually do have their own template that they provide to all of their faculty. How long is the course development process? Barbara, I'm going to pin that because it will be covered. Thank you. Great questions. So the topics in this course: what is course development at Algonquin College? What are some of the roles and responsibilities? What are those course quality measures and policies? And of course, a lot of detail and templates for all the deliverables involved. I don't know, Melissa, if you were touching on this, but because we spoke about it today, this is something that for any of our part-time or contracted faculty, they get paid for 4 hours to take this training. We're still promoting it to full-time faculty, but with Swifts, there's not really a way to compensate at this time. Highly, highly encouraged, but at least with our part-timers, we can pay them, and then that's before they actually meet with our team. I believe the next page is when Melissa's taken over. Yes. I will stop share and you can take over for that deep dive into what our course now looks like.
Okay, just bear with me here just while I get the screen sharing going. Oh, wait, I'm just going to try that one more time. Okay. Okay, so everybody can see my screen. Just going to move my Zoom window over here. All right, so this is our course development at AC training course. So as Sara mentioned, part-time faculty or course developers do get paid 4 hours to take this course. So we do estimate the amount of time it takes to be about 4 hours. But I know we have surveyed some participants in the past and it's kind of ranged. So some have taken less than 4 hours, some a little bit more, and many actually return back to the training to refer to some of the resources that are available here. So it can, they can spend a lot more time in this course, even after completing this training. So right off the bat, we have an announcement, welcome to course development, and it does add the person's name in here to give a little bit of personalization. So this announcement is just really designed to prompt our participants to go into the content section to view the contents of the course. I also wanted to mention that this is built in Brightspace. We use Brightspace at Algonquin College, and we do have an employee learning instance of Brightspace, so that's where this course lives. So if I click into the content section here, at the very top in the overview, there is a little bit of a welcome to course development at AC, along with the course level learning outcomes. So we do have these course level learning outcomes that we share with the participants right off the bat. And then further to that, within each module, we have developed module level learning outcomes as well. So in this getting started area, sorry, I'm just seeing a question in the chat here. Oh, Sarah's got it. Okay,
I
I'll
got it.
let Sara respond to the chats while I'm
Yeah, you do that. I got chat.
Okay, cool. All right, so there's a little bit of information here on the course delivery format. So just letting them know that it's a micro-learning course and that each module contains what they can expect within each module. And there's a link right up front to the final assessment. So we will get to that in a little bit. It is a self-paced training course that they can click through, but there is a final assessment at the end that they have to complete in order to for us to mark them as completed this training course. So I'm going to go through the module 1, and then I'm just going to pull out a few highlights from the other modules, just because this is a 4-hour training course and we don't have that kind of time in this session. So if I go into module 1, you can see right at the top here, we have our module 1 learning outcomes. So by the end of this module, you will be able to explain the course development process at Algonquin College, identify the different credentials and modes of delivery offered at Algonquin College, distinguish between Algonquin College roles and responsibilities with respect to course development. So this first module is very just high level. What is course development at Algonquin College? You know, what are the different credentials and that sort of thing. So we did create a little video in Powtoon. It's about 7 minutes long. So I'm going to just play the first couple minutes of it so you can get a sense of, you know, what the video is about.
Welcome to course development at Algonquin College. But what is course development? Course development is the process in which a faculty member or a contracted subject matter expert develops all the material needed to teach a high-quality course, including the course outline, weekly schedule, and all course content, activities, and assessments. This video will provide an overview of the course development process and showcase the resources available to assist you. On the dedicated About Course Development page, you can find detailed descriptions, policy-specific information, ready-to-use templates, and best practice exemplars. By leveraging these resources, you'll have the tools you need to navigate the course development journey with confidence and create exceptional learning experiences for your students. Let's begin by looking at the Course Development Checklist. At Algonquin College, we recommend using a backward design approach to course development. This approach asks that you first identify goals, so what students will be able to do upon successful completion of the course. Next, you'll decide what evidence will allow you to measure student achievement, and finally, you'll develop content to help students build the skills and knowledge to successfully meet these goals. The Course Development Checklist provides an overview of the milestones involved in developing a course. It is structured following the backward design approach and serves as a roadmap to guide you from the initial course outline to course content and eventually the final review process. The course development process from start to finish usually takes about 14 weeks or 1 term. Now, let's
All right, I'm just going to stop it there. So then it goes into each of the deliverables, just a very high level overview to introduce the course developers, the new course developers or faculty to, you know, what goes into a full course development at Algonquin College. And I also wanted to mention that voice that you hear in the video is our colleague who's no longer working with us, Tessa Foster. So she was the voice behind that video. So the next section is a section on program credentials and modes of delivery. So we have an infographic in here that shows, where course development fits within our program life cycle. Further down, we talk about the course outline, and depending on the credential, our faculty and course developers receive sometimes a partially completed course outline, and there are only certain sections that can be edited. Sometimes, if it's a degree program, they're not supposed to edit very much of the course outline at all. So that's a common confusion with some of our developers. So we have a little bit of information here on that, as well as we've used H5P activities to reinforce that learning. So they can kind of go in and read through some things and then test their knowledge using these H5P embedded activities throughout the training. We also have these little call outs. So, do you know what credential the course you're developing is a part of? Maybe they're taking this course and they're really not sure of that. So we just want them to know that they can always reach out to us if they're doing this training and they have questions, to really use us as that resource. There's some information here on the modes of delivery. So these are just some tabs that they can click through. So it's a little bit interactive. And I wanted to highlight, sorry, not this section, roles and responsibilities, but the key terminology section. We got a lot of feedback from participants who have taken this course that were brand new to the college, brand new to course development, that they would return to this page quite a bit, because these are all of the key terms that they may not be familiar with. They don't know what comms is, or embedded knowledge and skills, or andragogy or pedagogy. They would see that throughout the course and be like, what does this term mean? So they can come back here and find definitions on some of those terms that they may not be familiar with. My favorite questions, would you be willing to share your course as an OER for fellow EDs? Okay, Sarah's got that one. All right, so moving on to module 2, this module is all about sort of framing the course. So it goes a little bit deeper into backward design, our course quality framework, designing for AC learners and adult learners, designing inclusive and equitable courses. Of course, these are mostly fairly high level. It's just meant to introduce our developers to these concepts. There's also a section here on Algonquin College policies. So if we go into the backward design section, we have a little video here on backward design, which we didn't develop, but we've embedded into our course here, as well as a graphic. And if we scroll down a little bit further, we do have another one of those H5P activities. So you can see a lot of these modules are set up in a similar way where they can sort of test themselves on the knowledge that they have just learned. All right, and if I go back to the table of contents, so our final module, module 3, gets a little bit deeper into developing the course. So this is by far our largest module. Most of the time spent on this course will be within this module. So there's information on understanding learning outcomes, the format of learning outcomes, and writing embedded knowledge and skills. There's creating some of those key course documents, so course outlines and weekly schedules, as well as designing quality assessments. So again, this is pretty high level, but something I really wanted to pull out to show you that one of our colleagues, Shanna, worked very hard on, is we created some grading tools and sample assessments that our course developers and faculty have said have been quite helpful. So down at the bottom here, you can see there are a few different types of sample assessments with different types of rubrics. So I'm just going to pull up the group presentation example here. So all of these are dinosaur or Jurassic Park themed. and they're intended to be an example, but they can also be used as a template. So we promote that they can use this if they like, delete the content within it and, put in their own instructions if they want. But the whole idea behind it is to show what kind of level of detail we're really looking for in those assessment instructions. And if we scroll down a little further, we also have an example of a rubric that aligns to the course learning requirement that is in this particular assessment. So we've heard feedback that these have been very helpful. I know that I've seen in some of the assessments that I've reviewed from some of the course developers who've taken this training course, that the assessments are just far better aligned to those learning objectives. All right. So finally, go back to the table of contents here. Once they've gone through all 3 of these modules, they would move on to the final assessment. So there are some instructions here for the final assessment, but I'm going to bring up the example final assessment that we give them as part of this. So what we ask of the participants who complete this course is to fill out this chart and to actually take a learning outcome from the course outline that they've received for the course they're developing, and then work backwards and come up with an idea. It doesn't have to be, the full instructions or anything, but an idea of an assessment that would authentically assess that learning outcome that they find in their course outline or the chosen learning outcome. Then find some example resources to support students in being able to do that assessment to support the learning outcome. And finally, some ideas for learning activities or formative assessments so that students can build the skills that they need to be successful in completing that assessment in order to meet that learning outcome. So what's really great about this is by the end of this course, hopefully they have come up with a really solid idea for one of their assessments. So they've already started developing their course in a way. And once they complete this, we actually, if I go back here, have them submit to the very last thing is post it on a discussion board. So they can actually see the work of other course developers who have taken this course within that discussion board, and they'll also be sharing their own. So they can go through and read through some different ideas, and hopefully it can help them come up with some creative ideas for their own course. All right, so I think that is it for my demo. So I'm going to stop sharing and pass it back to you, Sarah.
Thank you.
I can take over the chat if you want while you.
I was just about to say that. Like, all right, you're up. That's why Melissa and I make a great team. All right. So remember those pain points we spoke about and that you all also kind of experience in some degree? We spent a lot of time correcting those learning outcomes. We had weak alignment, traditional assessments, a lot of us talking at, as you can see, it's a really full course, and we would often meet for an hour and a half just to introduce what some of the roles are and some of those acronyms, which I'm like education and acronyms, right? It can be very overwhelming. So after, we immediately saw such an improvement of the learning outcomes on the first go. Much better verbs to start with. We really didn't see any more understands or I'm gonna know this. We then saw better alignment. It was clear they really understood much better that that learning outcome needed to directly relate to the assessment. There was also a greater variety of them. We weren't just seeing faculty members just spit out a bunch of quizzes and tests. And we do acknowledge in the course that there is still a place for quizzes, but again, aligning to it and using it maybe as more formative, building up that, and then reaching alternative and authentic assessments later on in the course. Faculty are more involved in this process. So they're the ones going through it at their own pace. They're engaging instead of just having to passively listen to us, which was often, unfortunately, where we were in our overwhelm. And because they have continuous access, like Melissa had said, it's something that they're referring back to throughout their developments. If they have questions, they usually start there. And if they can't find it, then they're emailing us. So it ultimately had a bunch of other advantages beyond just the initial pain points. So one location for all of that information with different assessment types. That assessment piece has been a game changer for us. And the availability of grading tools. I was telling the team only yesterday or maybe Monday that I was like, oh, so-and-so just gave me all of their assessments. It is clear they used a template. It looks like an identical rubric that they've changed the words to make it fit their assessment. Mwah, success. They were so much more detailed and well-written instructions. And I'm sure you've seen assessments. You're like, as a student, I still don't know what you're asking me here. So showing those examples has been so key. A lot of downloadable templates, and we still get asked for more, which is great because, you know, I like employment and it means I can just keep creating more. Our first meeting is after that discussion board post, so it makes it a lot more action oriented and specific to their course development rather than me trying to information dump for everything for them to know before we even get started. And of course, because they're actually asking less questions throughout, they are going to that course to find the answers. It's increasing our own capacity and we're spending less time having to correct all of the nitty-gritty things. Some of our feedback has been incredible, as you might expect from some of this. So from our developer, I really enjoyed the content. It was helpful in contextualizing the elements of building a course. I uploaded my draft assessment chart into that Brightspace discussion board, and it was a really great exercise for me. Wow, I wouldn't have guessed the training was a pilot. Amazing. Another person found it immensely helpful, and though they have taken other courses at Algonquin, including we have a range of smaller courses called Introduction to Teaching at Algonquin, they found this one the most helpful. So that was a huge pat on our back. They found the backward design to be a useful approach to course development. And I don't know about everyone else here, but whenever we were at least promoting it in discussion and onboarding in that way, we found a lot of resistance to it and be like, yeah, no, I get it. But I'm going to start with week 1 content first, just because of that comfort level. So I think having an example, having a video, and then kind of forcing them to get their toes wet as part of that process in that discussion board, it helps them really click with what that actually means. We've had some folks where they do that and they kind of ideate on some of the assessments and then go to the content and then back. And we're fine with the method that they choose. Of course, we're going to promote this. We can't make them do it, but we've had a lot more uptake in that approach since launching this. Our examples of alternative assessments were the most helpful part of the training is another thing that we heard. So again, we've seeing presentations and case studies and simulations and how that might look in the classroom has been huge. And we're now getting ongoing requests for enrollment from faculty and sometimes from chairs for their faculty members that are either undergoing course revision or even have heard about the course from peers. So we as a team work with the faculty or the subject matter experts when they're developing brand new courses for brand new programs. It's mostly. So now we're getting uptake, even if these courses are going through revision from program modification or annual curriculum review, they're now the ones seeking this training, which again is telling. We're sending those ripples out across the college, which is great to see. Where do you want to go next? I know some of this was starting to come up in the chat as well. We want to develop more asynchronous courses. And that now in this role is going to be primarily where my responsibility continues. So one, we want to have a course specifically about hybrid courses. So for Algonquin, that's the courses that have, it might be 2 to 3 hours a week face-to-face in class, and they have a 1 hour asynchronous. We find a lot of disconnect for the college of what that actually means, so that we want to put our efforts there. And another one, again, we see a lot of people asking for more examples of assessments and more examples of rubrics. So they really want a deeper dive into assessments. We might have more later, but those are our 2 top priorities. We do want to have a scrubbed version that any faculty member can register. So what we mean for that, right now on that previous screen, because it is paid for our people going through course development, they need to ask. Just because at the time we were figuring out how to monitor that payment, and when they do that discussion, a badge gets issued, it triggers our person and they get paid. So it was easy if we know who we were putting into this course. Because of that, it also includes like reach out to your instructional designer or ask this person if you don't know. If we start enrolling every person in the college, we're going to get a little overwhelmed if we keep those kinds of prompts in it. So we're going to have the version without the like talk to your instructional designer in the version that anyone can access. So anyone going through revision or again are just interested in improving their own course, they're going to have access to that. And we'll still have, we'll say control, but be the ones enrolling in the paid version of it. A creation of more examples and templates, like I had said a little earlier, especially that LMS template. In the past, we had created one and there was a bit of a disconnect, and admittedly, we did it in, winter of 2020. It kind of got a little lost after March. So things have changed. That is something that we would love to have, and we might also be piloting that move with our Algonquin online comrades. I don't know why comrades instead of colleagues, but here we are. We want to have an additional video specific to writing learning outcomes. Although they've definitely improved, they continue to be sometimes a bit of a mystery and relaying that connection to assessments. And our ideal and longer term goal is also for a longer development term. Maybe some of you heard that, oh my gosh, we do this in 14 weeks. We're crazy. You're right. But that's just how the institution has been going. And honestly, that's in part, we weren't expecting as much as we are now from our faculty. I'm sure you can relate the amount that we're now expecting faculty to put into their course and into their LMS kind of in this post-pandemic world to increase student engagements and increase that asynchronous element is a lot more. And our development terms, our expectations have not matched that. So we are in the process of advocating for a longer development term and or a different kind of pay and support structure than we're looking at now, recognizing that we're in a very large institution. This is a longer term goal, but an ambitious one. Oh, wrong way. I'm going the wrong way. Where did my screen go? We did that. There have been questions throughout the chat. Thank you to Melissa also for answering all that. Does anyone want to verbally ask a question? Thank you, Tracy. Thanks, Mel. Thanks, Kevin. So you also know, again, our contact information is here, and I did link at the last page some of the Algonquin stuff, that workshop that I was talking about for Hume and Cambrian and Seneca's. I hope you guys are okay, but because again, you were such a big spark of that inspiration, it would be a disservice for me to not include that. We still have a chunk of time, so by all means, you can continue to ask us. I'm going to stop sharing screen in case there are. Oh, thanks you, Danielle. That was our ultimate goal here, really. Like I said, I had the feelings, the drive, and then it was other presentations and other colleges that I was like, oh wait, I can do it, and then therefore paying it forward. And like, this is very Algonquin specific. So some of what we say is not going to be relevant to your experience in your college, but maybe it's that trigger. And maybe as we go into the spring and summer sessions and then fall, and you're thinking about your own course revision or your own role, that maybe you'll have some change.
Sara, could I just ask a little bit about the actual development of the course itself? Like, what kind of a team did you bring together, and how did you resource it? And
I'm so glad you asked that, because when Melissa and I were talking about this, we actually had a point to talk about our process, and I was like, we're gonna run out of time. So we have time.
It's huge. Yeah.
We really started with our learning outcomes. We're like, well, we're going to put our money where our mouth is and go backward design on this. What are we going to start with? What do we want our faculty to be able to come away with? And we have a very robust team, and we're a very chatty team. So we had a folder in there of just our course development training materials. We divided it by modules. Actually, let me see if I can just share that with you. Pull up my team. As you'll see in a moment, here's my screen share of it. We have Jeff Goldblum as our icon for our team, just to go along with our dinosaur themed assessments. But under our files, we had one, it was our training materials, one space where we were keeping all the graphics that we started to use throughout that Melissa developed, some of the exemplars that we were going to use. So one of us would create it, put it in here. It became very robust conversation of tweaking, making changes, things like that. As you can see, these were the modules. We had other documents in the past that we knew we would either want to keep or tweak or include the information in some way. So if you look at, we'll go with module 1, welcome. This is definitely cleaner than it used to look, of course, where some of those comments have now been scrubbed out because it's cleaned up and online. But this is what we estimated. We would write the learning outcomes, the description, little tags throughout about, okay, this is where we're going to include the video that we create. And I don't think we have any. Okay. You can see our ongoing, like, you know what, we're going to turn this part into an H5P activity. You can see some of these is just a lot more information than we ended up actually including. We didn't include this graphic because we thought it was just too much and it might be better as a drop down. So it was very, very collaborative. We would have our own course development huddles about actually supporting the courses. And then we started having weekly meetings about checking in where everyone was. Tessa was primarily involved in the video and would send us updates and then get our feedback. And so you can even things like double checking the links before I put it on there, including screenshots of what these exemplars might be, some true or false about our policies. And yeah, it was an ongoing process, but very collaborative, very iterative.
There's a question in the chat from Lori. I'd love to hear more about oh, sorry, my chat window changed here. I'd love to hear more about the development and support structure you may be advocating for. Would love to see long-term if you're comfortable sharing. I've just been a little bit out of this conversation the past couple of months because of my new role. So I thought, I don't know if you want to share about future state or the goals. Yeah.
One thing that we're trying to do more is also support courses in a more cohort-based structure. So oftentimes, even though they're part of the big program, I'm sure you're familiar with, sometimes somebody is hired on time, sometimes they're the day before they need development, sometimes it's 2 weeks after we hope to get started. So then we end up supporting all of these courses in silos. They don't get to talk to each other about what assessments they might be developing and how they might be overlap unnecessarily or complementary. So we're definitely trying to move more in the collaborative model where every 2 weeks we might have a meeting. We have a team space where everyone can start uploading their weekly schedules and their assessments. Once we get to a content, we tend to do that a little more through the LMS or through email because it can be a lot in Teams. But naturally, in that collaborative structure, it takes more time. We've tried it. We're not managing those 14 weeks as we're hoping. But that is, again, it's the time that it's going to take is going to have a much better output for those courses. The program that I was supporting in the fall, we were all able to come every 2 weeks. We had very robust conversations of, by the end, in this one course, there's going to be a summit presentation. But each course would have a small piece that does contribute to that, but it's graded in that course. That wouldn't be possible in those silos. So that is one way that we're changing it. In a little more of the HR and finance, it's usually, you're contracted and you get paid either bi-weekly or at the end. There is some discrepancy across the college, acknowledging that. And the reality is we've occasionally had people disappear and they've gotten paid. So we're also trying to do it with incremental payments, more with the actual deliverables. So it might be that, you get 25% approximately for if you've done the course outline, the weekly schedule, and have a draft of your assessments. Okay, money. And then some of your content and then money. And then by the end, it's been an ongoing review, and now you only have to tweak up and revise in Brightspace. Our assessment, or not assessment, our support really does vary a lot by each department because they all have their different flavors. Don't know if that fully covered that. Yes, once, because as soon as they do get hired, they have Algonquin credentials. They do expire after their contract, so they wouldn't be able to continuously access unless they became the teacher of that course. But yes. Yes, we were recently, Melissa, because of your new role, our last meeting, we were talking about even taking some of those modules that exist and creating, if this was a face-to-face teaching of this module, what would that look like? What would the instructor notes for that be? If this was hybrid, where some was face-to-face and some, what would that instructor notes and content look like? So one, we are repeating the content that they're supposed to learn, but in 3 different formats to really help them visualize how the same content can be covered in different deliveries and different modalities. So many ideas, so little time, so little capacity. Anyone else have any more questions? Thank you for such robust conversation and interest and encouragement. This has been lovely for me. I'm going to pop in the chat. Also, a big thank you. If you're past this session and you aren't actually part of CDEG, by all means, we'd love to have you. It is free, but there is a link there if you would like to have those monthly updates about the sessions we are running. We have 2 more sessions left for the academic year. It is in On May 23rd at 1 p.m., part-time faculty, encouraging mentorship and collaboration. And then on Wednesday, June 19th at 11 a.m., we have an OCAS update by Karen Balfour and Sylvie Mainsville. But if you are on the membership, then you will have those in your emails soon with the links included. I feel like I need to save this chat to look at it later. What happened? Sorry. Thank you to everyone.
Thank you for joining, everyone.
2 minutes left. Lovely to see everyone. I hope your grading, your development, your rest time, whatever it is you need, goes well. Hope the day is sunny where you are.
Yes, and if we missed answering any questions, just please do reach out to us. You do have our emails, so